Dr. Michael Thompson had always been drawn to the art of healing. As a child, he spent hours poring over anatomy books, fascinated by the intricate design of the human body. His passion only deepened with time, leading him to pursue a career in medicine. After years of intense study and rigorous training, he finally achieved his dream of becoming a doctor, landing a position at a bustling hospital in San Francisco. But hey, before we dive into the story, do yourself a favor and pause the video right now. Go hit that like button and let's see if we can make this video reach 1,000 likes. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to your favorite story channel. Also, make sure to ring the notification bell so you never miss out on the latest and weirdest stories. Trust us, you won't want to miss what's coming your way. Now sit back, relax, and prepare to be amazed as we take you on an unforgettable ride. Don't forget to engage with us in the comments below. We love hearing from you. Without further ado, let's dive right in. For years, Michael thrived in the high-pressure environment. He was known for his dedication, often working late into the night to ensure his patients received the best care possible. But as the years wore on, the constant demands of the job began to take a toll on him. The endless stream of patients, the relentless pace, and the emotional burden of dealing with life and death every day started to weigh heavily on him. The breaking point came when two of his long-term patients, whom he had grown close to, passed away within weeks of each other. Despite all his efforts, he couldn't save them, and their deaths hit him hard. Michael found himself questioning his abilities, wondering if he had done everything he could. The self-doubt gnawed at him, and the passion that had once driven him began to wane. Feeling emotionally drained and in desperate need of a break, Michael decided to take some time off. He remembered the old family cabin nestled deep in the woods of Berkeley, a place where he had spent countless summers as a child. It was a haven of peace, surrounded by towering trees and the soothing sounds of nature. Michael hoped that a retreat to the cabin would help him find the clarity and peace of mind he so desperately needed. As he drove up the winding road leading to the cabin, memories of his childhood flooded back. The excitement of exploring the woods, the joy of discovering hidden trails, and the simple pleasure of sitting on the porch listening to the birds sing. By the time he reached the cabin, the tension in his shoulders had begun to ease. The familiar sights and sounds of the forest brought a sense of comfort that he hadn't felt in a long time. The first few days at the cabin were spent in quiet reflection. Michael took long walks through the woods, letting the tranquility of nature wash over him. He felt the stress of the past few months slowly melt away, replaced by a sense of calm. But even in this peaceful setting, a nagging feeling of unease lingered at the back of his mind. One morning, as he was wandering through a particularly dense part of the forest, he heard a faint cry. It was so soft that he almost dismissed it as the wind rustling through the leaves, but something made him stop and listen. The cry came again, this time louder and more insistent. Michael followed the sound, pushing through the underbrush until he came upon a small clearing. There, huddled beneath a bush, was a dog. Its fur was matted, and its eyes were wide with a mix of fear and desperation. But what caught Michael's attention was what the dog was protecting. A newborn baby wrapped in a dirty, tattered blanket. The sight took his breath away. The baby was incredibly small and looked fragile, its skin pale and cold to the touch. Michael's medical instincts kicked in immediately. He carefully lifted the baby, checking its vital signs. The baby was alive but clearly in distress, suffering from exposure and malnutrition. The dog, seeing that Michael meant no harm, allowed him to take the baby, following closely as he made his way back to the cabin. Once inside, Michael worked quickly to stabilize the baby. He warmed it up with blankets, fed it small amounts of formula he found in the emergency supplies, and monitored its breathing. The baby was weak but responsive, and Michael felt a surge of hope. He knew he needed to get the baby to a hospital as soon as possible, but first he had to make sure it was strong enough for the journey. As he cared for the baby, Michael couldn't stop thinking about the circumstances that had led to this moment. Who had abandoned this child in the woods? Why was the dog guarding it so fiercely? The questions swirled in his mind, but there were no immediate answers. All he could do was focus on the task at hand. After a few hours, the baby's condition had stabilized enough for Michael to feel comfortable making the trip to the hospital. He quickly gathered his things, bundled the baby in warm blankets, and headed for his car. The dog, who had not left the baby's side, jumped into the back seat without hesitation. The drive to the hospital was a blur. Michael's thoughts were consumed with concern for the baby and the mystery surrounding its abandonment. When he arrived at the emergency room, the staff immediately took the baby from his arms and rushed it into intensive care. Michael then contacted the police, who arrived shortly after to take his statement and begin their investigation. Sitting in the waiting room, Michael felt a mix of emotions. He was relieved that the baby was now in capable hands, but he was also deeply troubled by the situation. He couldn't shake the image of the tiny, vulnerable child lying in the woods, completely helpless. It was a stark reminder of the fragility of life, something he had been grappling with for weeks. The police were able to trace the baby's origins back to a small, dilapidated shack deep in the woods. When Michael heard this, he felt compelled to go back and see the place for himself. The next day, he returned to the forest, the loyal dog by his side, and found the shack exactly as the police had described. Inside, Michael found little more than a few broken pieces of furniture and a mattress on the floor. But tucked away in a corner was a small, crumpled piece of paper. It was a note written by the baby's mother. Her name was Emily, and she had been living in the shack for months, struggling to survive. In the note, she explained that she could no longer care for her baby and had left it in the woods, hoping that someone would find it and give it a better life. Reading Emily's words, Michael felt a deep sadness for the young woman who had felt so alone and desperate. But he also felt a renewed sense of purpose. He had saved the baby's life, and in doing so, he had rediscovered his own passion for saving others. The doubts and fears that had plagued him began to fade, replaced by a determination to continue his work with renewed vigor. When he returned to San Francisco, Michael was ready to face the challenges of his profession once again. The experience in the woods had reminded him of why he had become a doctor in the first place: to save lives, to heal, and to offer hope to those in need. And although he knew there would always be challenges and moments of doubt, he was confident that he had the strength to overcome them. The dog, who had played such a crucial role in the baby's rescue, had become a constant companion. Michael adopted the dog, naming him Lucky, and together they returned to the city, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Michael knew that he couldn't change the past or undo the losses he had experienced, but he could move forward with a renewed sense of purpose and a deeper understanding of the value of life. The cabin in the woods had provided him with the clarity he needed, and he was determined to carry that with him as he continued his journey as a healer. In the end, it was not just the baby's life that had been saved that day, it was Michael's as well.